Hello, everyone.
I'm Carl.
And I'm Em.
Welcome to our podcast discussing all of the latest books. This is our January bonus episode, and it's a refresh, recap, revisit, whatever you want to call it, of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and fan theories before Onyx Storm comes out on January 21st. Which I guess technically this episode releases on January 31st, so technically it's after the release of the book. But we encourage you to listen and then read.
These are our current thoughts before it's released. That's the important part.
That way we can revisit after we've read it to see if we were right, wrong, if anything changed from our last recap to now, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We will not be rating anything, but spoilers will lie ahead.
If you don't want to know how the books happen, go read them before you listen to our episodes so we don't spoil anything for you. But it's very important that you do read them because they're life-changing. Carly will now agree since she's actually read them this time when I'm saying this. So, are you ready to get started?
Let's get into it.
So the biggest thing is to group in who may die in the upcoming book. So I know that there's theories out there that it may be Xaden, it may be Taryn, it may be Sigale. I know there's also the inner circle as possibility. Like there's so many different theories.
There's too many options.
There is.
It could be anybody except Violet and Xaden at this point.
I've also seen theories that it could be Violet too, because
I don't think book 3 we kill off the main character.
No, obviously.
I could see her dying by the end,
yes,
but not this book.
Unless
same for Xaden. I don't think he dies in this book.
Unless when we don't have secrets anymore, we hear Xaden's perspective because Violet no longer exists because there can be no secrets now.
Well, that's very depressing.
I know.
Violet is keeping secrets in this book, so I don't know. But I will say this. You can't read about Xaden after he's lost the love of his life. Do you know how depressing that would be?
With Cat.
We're done. Cut the recording. We're not talking about anything else. I'm done. I'm not reading the book. Because this scene where it says she fights like Xaden, he trained her too, boils my blood.
I know. Every time about it, you get red in the face.
There's a song on TikTok right now that says, "Baby girl, I'm finna rock yo shit." And that's the scene that comes in my brain every single time it says that. 1,000%. But anyways, I don't think Xaden or Violet will die in this book. Their romance might die. But my guess of who's going to die is Mira.
Okay.
Or Ree. I don't want Ree to die, but for some reason I feel like, because we've lost someone on Xaden's side, which Violet was close to. I can't even say his name. Violet was close to him. No, I'm just kidding, to Liam. But it was technically Xaden's side. So I feel like it might be more Violet's side of friends this time, and Ree would be a perfectly sad person to kill off.
I'm kind of going towards the theory that one of the dragons, either this book or next book, I do think one of the dragons will die.
I could see book 4 being a big end scene and having a final book. I don't want the dragons to die, though.
So I know we talked about the theory about it possibly being Taryn, and then we lose Sigale and Xaden potentially, or Sigale dying and we lose Xaden.
I think if Taryn does die, I think Sigale has to go with him.
Yeah.
Or this whole talk about the connection and the mates would be all for nothing. So I do think if we lose Taryn, we lose Sigale, or vice versa. If Taryn dies, Sigale will probably die, but I think Xaden could probably cleave the bond by drawing on the new source of power he has. I think Violet would survive because of Andarna. She would be impacted, but I think she would survive.
The one that I think is most likely is actually Adarna dying, because I think Adarna is going to have to sacrifice herself to kill off the Venom.
That will happen at the end, though, not in this book.
So you think the Venon's going to be the evil character the entire book, or the series?
Unfortunately, yes. I think the villain's going to be the villain in the entire series. I think we might have smaller problems in there, like we kind of already had, but I think they're going to be the big villain. I will say, I could see last book and Darna and Violet sacrificing themselves to rid the world of Venom, like that being the grand finale.
I kind of wonder if the last book there's going to be a good section of that that's Justina.
Maybe. I would love to have more of her perspective, especially, and spoiler, especially because we found out that there might be some venom in the scribe
Yeah.
quadrant.
So, but her transcribing all of the things of the fallen and
Yeah,
recovered correspondence between Zeta and Violet leads me to believe that we made up with an excerpt or a bonus chapter from Justina's point of view in the final book.
I could see the epilogue at
Yeah.
the very end being from her point of view, for sure.
I do think your theory about Mira is probable, but I know you also think that Mira may be the one that betrays Violet.
I do. I think Mira or Brennan are the most likely to betray. And I told you this before, but Mira, I don't know, intentional or not. But Brennan, if he betrays, I think it might be unintentionally. But I think he might end up being the betrayal. Only partially because he's so secretive, anyways, and he's so isolated. He's disconnected from the group. And then also because of the orange dragon theory, that it just makes sense.
I don't think it will be unintentional. I think he will intentionally betray. And
That hurts my heart.
I think it's just because we don't know enough about Mira. I think she loves Violet enough where she would not betray Violet.
Because
But
we get those scenes where she shows that.
yeah.
We got to have their interactions. We only got past interactions with Brennan and then one or two really where he's sort of being brotherly.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's a disconnect.
See, I think it's kind of opposite of what you think. I think Brennan will be intentional and Mira may be unintentional if there is one of
Okay.
those plays. Mira, to me, would be unintentional because she, even though she isn't really like book, like kind of like cut and dry kind of person, she is at the same time kind of rule abiding, like for Biscaya, for,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So I think she would unintentionally, almost like how they perceive
Ooh.
Dane unintentionally betraying Violet.
Yes. Well, I still strongly dislike Dane, but I warmed up a little bit to him.
I think he's a mole.
Oh, I think he could be too, 100%.
Yeah.
I hope he's not for Violet's sake, but I think he could be as well. There could be some other moles too. But aside from all of that, I have a question because this would be a really good clarifying question that just popped in my brain. We've talked about betrayal a lot, but I've never actually asked, do you think the betrayal will be related to Venin or the general Basgiath people? Like, where do we see the betrayal happening?
I actually perceive two different betrayals. It depends on if the storyline that people are rumoring may happen will happen or not. Let me talk about the first obvious one first. So,
Okay.
like the obvious one, I think Mel Green. There could be somebody that's, I think more so that would be like Dane, maybe Mira kind of storyline where that could go.
Okay.
But I think potentially the storyline with Bodhi or like maybe somebody that is in like the rebellion kind of thing could potentially be the theory that Zayden's parents are somehow involved with the venom, or the storyline about the princes becoming a more dominant part of the storyline. I think
Mhm.
that could also be where some of the betrayal could end up. I know I've seen one theory that Eric could be a mole for his brother or other members of like the staff of the princes or whatever could be, as moles or
Kings, yeah.
yeah. I think there's three different storylines that could possibly be the betrayal. I think the most obvious one's Mel Green, but I also kind of seen a theory about Mel Green dying and becoming potential Venom, or him dying because he does kind of give me vibes of like I want more power. So like I could see where he could become Venom pretty easily and then not be a big question.
I
That
agree.
doesn't throw me for a loop.
I will say it's fascinating to me that he can see the outcome of battles, though.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a very valuable tool for the Venom. Do you get to keep your powers once you turn Venom with the powers you got from your dragon?
Well, I know you didn't want to read those chapters; they got leaked, but I read
No.
them, and Zayden was still using his powers in those chapters. We're not
But
sure they're legit chapters, so I'm just going to preface that. But there was some leaked
but
chapters.
also his bond is still intact at this point, as far as we know.
True.
Once they severed the bond, does that sever any powers that were obtained through the dragon?
That kind of leads us back into the theory that Naolan is linked to Taryn or not.
Is it
Well,
Naolan?
I think
I thought that was the healer.
no, I think Naolan.
What's the healer's name? It's an N too.
Yeah, I think it's Nolan.
Nolan. Okay, so
Yeah,
Naolan is Taryn's previous writer, and Nolan is the
I
healer.
think so.
Okay, go ahead, Naolan.
But I think that's where that could possibly play into whether or not, because I think you had the theory that maybe Naolan comes back and takes control of Taryn at some point, and that's how we end up getting where Taryn's no longer bonded to Violet.
I had this revelation the other night when we were recording a different episode, but
She does.
I'm concerned. Like my mind was like, whoa. I'm concerned that, and let me give context. We all know how Jack did not actually die. The greatest disappointment of this series is that Jack did not die under Liam. Liam's the top one.
Mm.
He didn't die, but it's written as if his bond with his dragon broke because the dragon rebonded
Yeah,
afterwards, right? But then at the end of Iron Flame, somehow Jack has control over that dragon still, so much so that he sacrifices it. But it's not really explained how.
yeah,
So my concern is that if Taryn is the one that's going to die, my theory is how he dies is because his previous writer, Naolan, is still alive, turned Venom in order to save Brennan, which is how I think the betrayal will happen. Also, Brennan knows that and has told nobody, and that trickles down into what the betrayal is or
yeah,
whatever, however it happens. And then Naolan comes back, takes control of Taryn and kills him, sacrifices him or something, which then, of course, kills Sigel. And I'm sure Violet would probably kill Naolan. That's probably what would happen in
yeah.
that scene. But that's my concern, that that's how Taryn dies. And I really don't want that to happen.
Do you think it's a possibility that Xaden breaks his, or Sigel breaks her bond with Xaden, and that's how Taryn and Sigel die, and we still get Xaden around?
I think as it's happening, Sigel will realize that Taryn's about to die, and Sigel will cleave the bond. And that leaves Xaden. And I think because he can pull from the source now with his new Venom powers, that he'll be able to survive cleaving the bond.
Okay.
Now, what that means in terms for his powers, how that goes forward, I don't really know. That's kind of, it's not really fully been explained what happens there. So we'll get more
Well, I'm
information, I'm
glad you
sure, this
said that
weekend.
because I have been re-listening to Fourth Wing on Audible. I got kind of a snippet at the beginning whenever it's her and Mira conversing before she goes off to the parapet. Mira makes a comment along the lines of, don't just randomly start trying to conjure a power, almost like don't try to get a power before you get a dragon kind of situation, which makes me feel like it's foreshadowing. Because, like, why would you mention that in there if that wasn't going to happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's so many.
Because she's teasing her about the Venom book and the Wyvern book
Yes.
or whatever she had, and she was teasing her about that, and that's when she
Yep.
mentioned like don't sit there and go all Venom and try to get powers without a dragon or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I do want Rebecca to explain it to us
Mm-hmm.
because you know me, in my brain, it has to actually make sense. It
Yeah,
has to be a logical explanation. I have to know how they cleaved the bond and still survived as Venom. How did Jack survive if his dragon cleaved the bond? I need to have all these answers.
yeah,
It makes sense to me that the only way to survive that is to become Venom. That makes sense to me. But I need that to be wrapped up with a bow. I am concerned. My whole theory works, right? In theory, of course. But then what happens to
in
Violet?
theory. So
Because,
yes, it would work in theory.
yeah. But what happens to Violet? Because right now, the only power we know about comes from Taryn.
Yeah,
And it says it's pure power. Could she save him? Could Naolan try to take back control, almost kill him, and Violet saves him? And he lives? I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like she has all this power, so much potential. And I've said this before, I'm pretty sure. We've barely tapped into it.
mm-hmm.
We treat her like some little girl. And I need her to step up this book. I need her to put these people in their place, get her power under control. We're going to find out she has a second signet. Maybe that will help her control her powers. I don't know. But I need her to be a bad bitch. And I need it to happen. I
Yeah,
mean, we've had moments. But we have moments and then she goes back to being a little whiny,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I need it to be consistent. There's no time for games anymore.
Yeah.
Your man's dying. So, I don't know.
Well, I do think there's two possibilities for solving the whole Venom problem. The first biggest one being Ardarna being the cure, which we've already talked about. But I think the second one,
By that, you mean like her blood or what do you mean?
blood, like, I mean, obviously, Venom haven't been around for 600 years. Supposedly, Adarna has been an egg for 600 years, and all of a sudden she hatched when she found Violet. So I feel like there's some kind of connection there. As far as what that is, I don't really know. I know that there was rumors that basically they're going to be trying to find the seventh dragon den, which is supposed to be where Adarna's kind comes from. So
Okay.
maybe they find some kind of idea about that. I'm not quite sure, but I feel like there's going
It
to be something with that.
could be Dad's research mixed with Andarna.
Yeah.
But
Or,
does the cure just kill them or does the cure turn them back human?
well, I don't know about Adarna, but the other one I've seen is Sloane. Since she's a siphon, being able to
Yes.
drain the venom of their power they've gotten, does that then make
That would
Sloane into a venom because she's draining power from another source?
I would say no because it is her actual power. However, I do think it would kill the venom, so we wouldn't be rescuing them.
I think it would depend on
Yeah.
how far gone they are.
But
Because if it's like Zayden, where he's just taking it one time and he's not like, because there's different. Like
first
there's
of
a
all, let's not
reason.
use that phrase, taking it one time.
I feel like there's a reason why there's levels. You know what I mean?
I feel like once you've crossed the line, you've crossed the line.
So you think Zayden's not able to be cured? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think he needs to be cured.
But
I love me a villain.
but
I just love me a villain that can control himself. That's my concern, is he won't be able to control himself.
well,
In the bad way.
and that's what these little excerpt chapters have said. Everybody's protecting Violet because they're
Yeah.
afraid that Zayden may try to drain her because she's literally unsourced power.
Which comes back to my theory that she could put her power in that little ball thing or whatever, so you can drain from that, so that A, she's using her power to not be so restless and built up, but then it gives him a safe way to pull power instead of from the ground and stuff.
I just think
But then does he get greedy and want more
that's
from
what
the
I'm
source?
saying.
Like blood,
Yeah.
like a vampire.
Yeah, that's how I'm thinking.
This just got sexual.
But it wouldn't be an episode if it wasn't at some point.
Oh gosh.
I'm just afraid that he's going to try to drain her of more power, which I guess leads us into, has she already been drained of power because that's how she got her gray hair? One of those excerpts mentioned her hair.
What if she's immune?
And that also leads me into the possibility she may be the cure.
Ooh.
Because
This is crazy.
maybe something
There's
with
where
her and Adarna, maybe their blood mixed together becomes a cure or something. Which
I know
supports
I
your theory
said
that they
this.
both die at the end.
I know I said this in another episode, but we're only 2 books in. So much could happen in the next 3 books, and my brain is just like all over the place.
I know I said to you, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, I really feel like once we get to this third book, all my questions are going to be answered, but then I'm going to have like 20 more questions in its place, and then they're going to be even worse questions because it's going to be like, that can't be how it ends. Like, that can't be the way it's going. Like, there's no way.
I have a really bad feeling that we're actually going to even have questions after book 5. Like how they read their history books in this book series and they have questions. I feel like it might happen to us.
See, so here's my thought. I've read
It's
a
immersive.
lot of Rebecca's books.
You
pretty
have.
much all
That's
of
true.
them.
I've read one other.
I
It
have
was delicious.
2 of hers left.
Delicious is probably not the right word considering how sad it was. The main male character was delicious. The book was sad and beautiful.
To be honest, all of her books, I've so far not read one that I would rate lower than a 4.5 star. Pretty good series.
The 4.5 star, you're on Fable too much.
4.25 is where I was going to go, but I decided
I know, but instead of like a 4.5, it's a 4.5 star because you can see it in your brain. Well, fun fact. We're going to insert an ad for Fable here as well. But you should also know if you would like to support a similar app that's owned and created by a black woman, it's called Storygraph.
I was gonna talk a little bit more about the theories about the venom since we were on that with
Excuse me?
Zayden's parents. Um,
Absolutely.
what's your thoughts on Zayden's parents being possible venom, mom and dad, or Violet's either Violet being half venom or related to venom, or her mom being venom? Does your stances still kind of remain the same on those, or have they changed?
Okay, so for Violet, I don't think she's Venom. I don't think her mom is Venom. I don't think her dad's Venom. I think her mom might have encountered a Venom while she was pregnant that may have attempted to drain her or something, and that's what resulted in Violet's hair. Maybe that's how she becomes immune. But I don't think she is Venom, and I don't think her mom's Venom. And I think dad's dead, unfortunately. I think Rebecca confirmed that maybe in an
Mhm.
interview.
I think she confirmed Zayden's dad was for sure dead. I don't know if she did Violet's dad for sure.
I do agree that Zayden's dad is dead. I think he has to die in order for this storyline to even
Yeah.
play out, to be quite frank. I could see Zayden's mom being Venom and being the general and leading. And honestly, that'd be kind of badass too, because we have like several male lead strong characters, and we get a couple female. But we don't really let them shine through. Like Mira, we talk about how tough she is, but we rarely get to see it.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool to have a female general. And it would throw everybody off that it was Zayden's mom. Also, we don't know anything about her, so it kind of makes sense. It's been such a secret or like not mentioned.
Well, and Rebecca did say in an interview we'd learn more about her. So I do feel like in some way she's going to come into play, whether it's Venom or just naturally.
Yeah. It could be that she was killed by Venom or something too. Like there could be something related like that. But I think
Or
she might be a part of it.
what if she was partnering with, I just thought of this,
Okay.
genius. Okay, wait for it. Wait for it. What if Zayden's mom was partnering with Violet's dad on learning about the Venom?
It's possible. We don't know anything about her, so anything's possible, really. Other than the fact that she stayed. We know she
Yeah,
left. Why she left, we don't know.
yeah.
But no, I think anything's possible at this point with her.
I'm wondering if maybe she ran when Violet's dad got killed because she thought she was at risk because he may have been killed because of his research on venom.
Maybe. Maybe she's in the veil, keeping cozy with the research until it's time.
Or I've also seen a theory where she may be on like the Isle Kingdoms or
This
whatever.
new place that we're gonna
Yeah.
discover.
So
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna need to understand why we're introducing a new place. So I hope there's a big
I think it's because
reveal
we're
for
going to
that.
find the seventh dragon den there.
That
Or
makes
it's going to have
sense.
something to do with the prince's kingdom thing, I think, too, possibly. Maybe
That makes
both.
sense. I just need it. We've got a lot of places already so far on the map, so I
Yeah.
just need it to make sense and it be significant that we're introducing a whole new place.
Well,
I will say
actually,
though,
sorry,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I am concerned we're gonna see more people in Zayden and Violet's life that turn Venom.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen a whole lot of theories about that. I've seen like theories about who dies, theories about who betrays, but I haven't seen theories about someone else becoming Venom.
Well, so the excerpt that was released and kind of a theory, I know you didn't really like where it went, but I do agree that it's a high possibility just because. So there was an excerpt, and also in the lead chapters, it mentioned about the gray or the silver hair on the Venom girl that disappears when they're trying to break into to take Jack. So I'm thinking the theory about Violet being a twin being possible. And I'll tell you what, I think that the twin, one became Venom and was trying to drain Violet. So therefore, Violet's hair turned silver. But I also think it's a high possibility that Violet being the cure, Venom, you get what I'm saying? Like they shared a womb, one's a cure, one's a disease kind of situation.
I get what you're saying. My confusion and the reason I lean away from that one is because I don't understand how the baby would have become Venom in mom's belly.
I think because when the
And
mom had the red circles around her or red rims around her eyes, she tried to save maybe them both. One got the disease, one became the cure kind of thing.
then mom had to have been Venom too, and I feel like we would have already discovered that considering she's dead.
But I think she got the cure.
But the cure is Violet.
She was not Venom.
How would she have?
She was not Venom that we know of while Violet was alive.
How did she get it from Violet in the womb when
I don't
we
think she
don't know
did.
that?
I think she got it after Violet was born.
And did what with the other baby? See, there's too many questions for that one. That's why that one doesn't work for me.
Well, you have to have
Also,
solid answers with everything. I just gaze over some things that make sense.
yeah, I know. Like when they're 25 and you think they're 15. I'm always going to come back to that. That time you thought, I was like, what? They're grown. Okay, anyways. And then I have another question. If that's the case, if one baby was Venom, how did it become Venom just because mom might have been pulling? But also, how did it become Venom and then only pull from Violet and not pull from mom as well? And how did they stop that? How did they stop it from killing Violet? There's too many questions. I could see her potentially having a twin. No, I don't know. I was
I
gonna say
just think the
maybe they
silver hair thing is just too
they
much of a coincidence, and like they want her, like,
the girl at Arisha had silver hair.
but like all of that just doesn't make sense how they keep mentioning it.
Okay, I agree that it's weird, but she wasn't. You're saying she's Venom?
Well, they mentioned a silver-haired Venom in the leaked chapters.
I know, but I'm talking about the woman that has silver hair at Arisha. Why is her hair silver?
Well, I don't know about her. She was irrelevant in my thought process.
No, see, you can't do that. See, if we're saying silver hair is a correlation to Venomhood, then we have to make it make sense. Is she Venom secretly? Okay, that's what I need answers. So we'll see what the book says, I guess. But
This may have been dyeing her hair silver. You never know.
I could see the theory that Violet's mom was pregnant with a twin. It was Violet and a twin, girl or boy, whatever. I guess it would have to be a girl because that girl, you said the venom was a girl, I
Yeah.
think. But so two girls, the venom that attacks her drains her because there are two babies. They each get like a 50-50 hit instead of the one baby being drained, which is why Violet is weak. Both babies are born. The second one she thinks doesn't make it, maybe? So they take it off and bury it or something somewhere. I don't know. Whatever they do in this day and age.
Or there was a Venom and they stole the baby and told her it was dead.
Okay. And so then that's how that child is raised in the venom and becomes evil or whatever, and Violet's not. I could see that. I don't understand how the baby could be venom and be the one pulling from Violet. That's the part that gets me. And I don't think anybody has the cure to venomhood at this point. I think Violet's going to discover that, and I think that's why it's not been created yet, because
I think there's a reason, though, why her dad was researching Venom and not telling people about it.
well, yeah, because there's a war going on.
Well, I know, but I think, but obviously, like, if there was a war and people knew about Venom, they were just keeping it secret from everybody but, like, the important people. I think there would be a reason why, like, I think Violet's mom would have known more about it if there was a reason behind it that wasn't trying to protect either Violet's mom because she was Venom, they needed a cure for her, or Violet.
I think that wait a minute, backtrack. I thought Dad's research was about the dragon.
The Feather Child. But
Does it say he actually researched venom?
So in my reread of Fourth Wing, remember whenever she goes down to the archives and she asks Jacinta to find a copy of the Fables, and
Yeah,
Jacinta says this text doesn't exist. The only
correct.
one that ever had a copy about Venom and Wyvern was Violet, her dad. So I
Hmm.
think that was research that he made into Fables because he wanted to keep it secret. So if you
I think
just
it was a hundreds and hundreds of year old book. I think they said it was a very, very old text that had been taken out on purpose, not that her dad had created it, though.
Yeah, but if it was old text, wouldn't there be multiple copies in the archives? Or at least one of the
They took
copies?
it out on purpose.
I don't
They
know.
burned all the copies, like when they burned Orisha's library. That's crazy. You know how mad I'd be if I don't even have a library. I have 3 bookshelves. Do you know how mad I would be if someone said I have already planned if my house catches fire, how I'm going to get those bookshelves out of here. So, I'd burn the world down if somebody burned my bookshelves.
Well, I have all mine insured, so I just know there's
I
a
mean, I have home insurance,
well,
but
no, there's just a few that I would grab because they're signed copies. So like, I gotta save those because I don't know when I could get the other ones again. But
I'm finna hulk out and grab all the bookshelves, take them out in the backyard.
I have like 12 bookshelves, so it's not gonna happen.
I have 3, and they're right by the back door. It's happening.
Yeah,
If I have to lay them flat and drag them out the door, that's what's gonna happen. The dogs, they'll get outside eventually. The bookshelves gotta go. I'm just kidding. I'm lying. The dogs would be the first thing I grabbed.
and then go back.
Actually, if we're being totally honest, the first thing I'm gonna have to grab is pants because I don't ever have pants on. Ever. Pants, my phone to call 911, and then the dogs, and then the books.
You know, priorities.
Exactly. While the dogs are stuck outside in the kennel because they'll go crazy and try to run back in the house, then I'll be dragging the bookshelves out, covering my mouth.
Oh, I did miss a theory while we're on like death and dying.
When are we not?
You know, true.
Sex or death? Those are our 2 favorite topics.
Or shadow daddies, one or the other.
Well, that kind of goes with sex.
True, true. Same qualifications. But it was a theory too that I overlooked about Mel Green being assassinated by a marked one.
Okay, wait. Is it Mel Green or Mel Grin?
Mel Green.
There's one E,
He's
right?
irrelevant.
You keep saying green though, and I just want to make sure. Is there one E?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I wrote it
All
both
right.
ways, so I couldn't tell you.
Him being assassinated by a marked one,
Uh-huh.
a particular marked one.
Just a marked one in general.
And for what purpose?
Because if they gather in groups of 3 or more, he can't predict their movements. So I think at some point they're going to want to kill him.
Oh, wait a minute. Can he not see the venom?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think we talked about that in one of our episodes about whether or not he could. I don't remember what the answer was.
Okay, well, when you re-listen to Iron Flame, you'll have to let me know if you hear anything about that. Because now at this point, I'm convinced that he cannot. If that's the case, if he can't see the venom, he's not really a harm to the venom. So,
I mean, if he can see the venom, this is the part that doesn't make sense to me. If he can see the venom based on the leaked chapters, why are they doing? Because in the leaked chapters, they're doing kind of like flybys to see if they have any outstanding venom anywhere. And if that's the case, is he not just saying where the venom is?
well, because okay, I think part of the problem with this whole thing about him is that we actually needed to clarify his signet a little bit better. I think it's like actual like fight scenes, war scenes, like battles. I don't think it's he can just see anything.
But how would he classify a battle? Does it have to be a certain amount of people or more?
I would say so. I would say it has to be at least a small group. But if that's the case, then he would never technically see the battle outcome of 3 or more. Okay, but wait a minute. Let me ask you this. So
But
if
if that's
there
the
is
case, then how did he not know about Vizcaya before it happened?
because there were marked ones there. But if that's the case, then he really ain't seeing nothing. Because there's probably 3 or more marked ones. Well, I guess they said he separates them. But there's got to be enough of them at some point they would have shown up. So here's my question then. So they say he didn't see the fight out of the tower or whatever between the Venin and the marked ones. That's how he didn't know they were still alive.
But there was
So,
multiple of them there. He basically sent a whole group of marked ones and Violet.
yeah,
So
he did. That's true. Well,
I think he just assumed that they would all die, so he didn't worry about it.
it must be the runes. And then I need to know, like, I feel like the marked ones are connected to the runes, though, somehow. They've got to be.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like earth magic. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Source.
that does actually kind of confirm because the youngest marked one, they said, was born with the runes. She was not marked.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So that's a possibility. And that's also kind of relates to the one theory I read about how Violet was able to see Liam when she was being tortured because he carved runes into her little dragon statue. So
Yeah.
that would kind of link that to make complete sense.
Yeah, but also, like, I don't know, it's just my brain is running at like a 10. And it's literally almost 10 o'clock at night. There's so much to it. This is why I don't write books. I mean, there's a million other reasons also, but this is one of them. Because how do you choose which way it goes? Do you like flip a coin? Heads, it's this way. Tails, it's this way. Heads, Taryn dies. Tails, and Darna dies. I mean, that's ridiculous. You can't do
Is
that.
it crazy to you that there's like a room full of people that she presented this 5-book series idea to that knows how this is all going to go?
And they're just living their lives
Yes.
as if they don't have the information in the
And
back of
then,
their
like,
tails.
no, but they know the gist of it. And here we are running
I
circles trying to figure
guess.
out what the answers are, and they already know the main points of what's going to happen.
Well, you know what? I hope they know no moments of peace. Especially because this book's going to come out, and then we're probably going to have to wait 2 more years before the next one even comes out. And that's very frustrating. Although, like, I get it, so, like, no judgment to Rebecca, but also very frustrating. She's writing them little romances.
Whatever I can do to help you, Rebecca, I will gladly do whatever needs to be
You want
helpful
to
to
bounce
you.
ideas off of
Yeah,
us?
we gotcha. We
Absolutely.
gotcha.
And I'll keep that secret, don't you worry. I don't leak no pages.
Uh-uh.
Promise.
As long as I can read it and satisfy my craving for whatever happens, I will gladly do whatever necessary to help you out.
We got your back.
Currently, while we're recording this episode, you're sitting on a beach and you shared a thing. I'm going to tell you what she shared today. It got me real angry. Love you.
Not you literally pulling up her story and be like, you're sitting on a beach while we're recording this episode.
No,
You're such a
legit.
dork.
No, I'm going to tell you what her caption said. Hold on. Because it
You're
made me
such a
angry.
dork.
She says, so many plot ideas, period after each word. Happy sigh, period. Evil grin, period. Same thing, period. Heart.
That is evil. That's very evil.
And I don't know if it's
Can't believe.
related to a very sad, devastating romance that she's planning on writing, or whether it's the book that's coming out in 2 weeks.
Hopefully it's a sad romance.
I don't know if I can take another sad romance from her.
I could. I don't want it to be cancer though.
No. Or another child dying at all.
Okay, this is really sad. No, yeah, no more child death. I want to read a book where a girl and a guy, because that's my preferred, fall in love and then one of them dies. And it's like soulmates, like the best love ever. And it's like they like date in love whatever for like a year and a half. They get engaged, they get married, and then tragedy strikes. And then I'm sure there's books like this out there, but and then watching them like fall in love all over again because I have this insane fear, and it's insane because I've been single for a long time at this point.
That storyline is what I think is going to have to Violet.
I think so too.
I think
I'm
Violet.
assuming Eric, you believe Eric's going to be your second.
I think
I think we're going that way.
I think Eric is what she ends up with.
I think Zayden dies. If Zayden's going to die, I think it happens in the 4th book, though. I think the 3rd book is too early to kill.
Well, I think because her
Zay-
mantra is "I will save him," there's no way that he dies.
yeah. Well, because so far, I will not die. She didn't. We will not die. They didn't. He will not die, or I will save
Technically, we
him.
will not. Liam did die, so if we counted Liam in the we.
Don't talk about it. Just kidding. No, the we is Zaylin. Who is Zaylin? Violet and Zayden. I think you're right, though. I don't think he dies in this book. I do think their relationship is hindered heavily, and I think some like breakage starts happening in this book. The next book, I think he sacrifices himself for her, probably. I'm gonna cry. And then she falls in love with Eric because I think, and this leads us into another theory that Eric's dragon is going to be Andarna's mate.
Mm-hmm.
My only thing about that is, haven't these two dragons already crossed paths? Wouldn't we know that by now?
I mean, but Adarna was kind of kept away
That's true.
for quite a
Yeah,
bit
she
of it.
healed for a while there at first in Arisha,
Yeah.
and then that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. There's something about it that just like I don't understand why we're bringing Eric into this unless some heavy storyline with the princes or the kingdom or something.
Oh, 100%. The king and Halden is the brother that's left. The other one's dead, supposedly. Which makes me wonder if he's not actually dead, but we'll see. But Xaden killed him at the threshing
Uh huh.
because he bullied Garrick. Oh, by the way, still in love with Garrick, and I hope we see more of him
I
as we go
know.
through.
Honestly, getting Zayden's perspective made me love Garrick even more.
1,000%.
I need a
I
whole
want
book.
more of Garrick.
Honestly, if
I
she ends
need
up as a
his.
Garrick, I wouldn't even be mad at it, to be honest.
Me neither. Honestly, at this point, Garrick doesn't keep secrets. Garrick was the one that defended her in the woods. Maybe she should be in love with
If
Garrick.
she was to be with anybody, if Zayden were to die today and she was to be with anybody, I wouldn't be mad at Garrick.
Okay, but I do love Eric or Cam, whatever the name he wants to go by. I do love him too.
I do like him. I don't think I've got enough of him to say I love him. Garrick, I've got
That's
enough of
fair.
him to say I love him. But
That's fair. We know, we've really actually gotten more of Eric than we have of Garrick,
I
though,
know, but
right?
just like personality wise, like the interactions and stuff, it was more like business with Eric.
I don't know. Well, that's because Zayden was there, but when they go down in that little room,
I didn't really get enough there to kind of have that
it's
thought.
a little scene. I don't know, but I agree. I do think there could potentially, as sad as it makes me, be a storyline where Zayden dies and Violet and Eric move on
See,
happily ever after.
here's kind of my other problem.
You know who doesn't deserve a happy ever after?
Jack Violet.
Kat and Dane. Oh, and Jack. Kat, Dane, and Jack. If any of those three have a happy ever after, I'm done.
Yeah,
Period.
they could all end up in a threesome for all I care and die in a mountain.
Okay, wait a minute. The threesome would be a happy ever after, so that's not
No, I mean just like
acceptable.
they all go live in the mountain, decaying
Oh,
somewhere.
you mean okay, okay. I will say though, I think we might see Kat try to get with Dane or Kat try to get with Halden, the older brother. But
Well, I think that Halvin may come into play because also there's that rumor that he may be Violet's ex.
mhm.
So kind of playing into maybe Kat trying to make her even more jealous because Zayden didn't work.
But I don't think it was about making her jealous really. I think it was about hurting their relationship so she could move back in on Xaden. Simply because she wants a crown. Here's the crazy thing though. We've also talked about Xaden and Violet getting married so that Violet is officially the queen of
So
Arisha.
yeah.
And I think that might happen in secret. Maybe that's how we end this book and then he dies in the next one. Rebecca, I got you, girl.
Oh wait, hold on. The light bulb ding right here. So if that's the case, and Violet ends up with Eric, and say Eric's brother dies, that's the crown prince. That's how the two kingdoms come together.
Mhm.
Mm,
Boom. See, we just laid it out for you right there.
uh-huh. Solved all of it, all the problems.
Yep. Rewrite your book. If that wasn't what you're going to write, this is how you should write it. No, I'm just kidding because if Xaden was going to survive, don't kill him off. If he lives and they have a happy ever after, don't kill him off.
My question too is now that Sawyer only has one leg, how do you think that's gonna play into it?
That's a great question. I wholeheartedly believe they're going to have to make him a harness for his dragon, first and foremost, if that ever even
Well,
becomes a possibility.
in one of the leaked chapters, they're down there visiting Sawyer whenever the Venom attack, and I don't care if you don't want to read the leaked chapters. I read them, and it fits some of these things.
I
So,
know, but she didn't want them leaked. It feels like a betrayal.
but you're gonna read them in 2 weeks anyways.
Plot twist, the betrayal is actually the fans. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Well, but whenever Sawyer's laying in bed, they like hand him a knife and like have someone guard him to like protect him. So I'm wondering if he will just like maybe be like professor, or they'll send him back to Risha or something along that lines.
It'll be him and Jacina.
There was a little note about Jacina having like brought him candies or something like that on his nightstand.
That's how they're going to fall in love, because he's bedridden while he's recuperating.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, like, if, because we've, like, obviously alluded to amputation at this point, but it'll be interesting to see if, like, he'll have a prosthetic or if he won't, or, like, how that will impact his writing,
Well, she said in
that
the
sort of thing.
interview she wanted to include more inclusivity, but like make it where it was logical. So I mean, if he
Mhm.
had a prosthetic, that would kind of make sense where it would be logical he could still ride a dragon and stuff.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see how that works and how she if she does write that way, or if she doesn't, what holds him back, or if there are alternatives,
I mean,
excuse me,
Violet
or
has
what
a
could happen.
seat. Sawyer can have a seat.
Yes, but Violet also has even weight on both sides of her body, which plays into that, thinking
But
that.
they could put like sandbags or something on that side to like even the distribution.
I don't know about sandbags. That's very human. But I think they could add some weight on the other side, yes, to even it out, possibly. Sandbags is crazy, but
I don't know why that's the craziest thing we've come up with.
you're on a dragon. Why would you have a sandbag tied down?
It would no like built into the seat or something, so that way whenever he sits down, it's already there. I'm not saying like every time he gets on the dragon, they hook up some sandbags to that side of his body. No.
Okay, well, I definitely think there might be some way to do that, but it'll be interesting if she does to see how she does it. If she doesn't do it, what becomes of him? Does him and Justina become a couple? Do we get that interaction, that point of view to even know? We don't really know. So,
Well, before we stray too far from Eric, too, I also want to ask about what you think about the theories, which I believe one could possibly be a possibility for Eric or for another character, but Eric either being a distance wielder or a storm wielder.
okay, so I think the distance wielder makes most sense to me
Okay.
personally. However, I do think that if him and Violet were going to end up together, the storm wielder would make more sense. The connection there, their powers being sort of connected, that like reflection of each other just feels like something we could bond on, especially if their dragons are mates or build on. But if they're not going to get together, distance wielder makes so much sense because we keep talking about it and nobody is it. So somebody's going to be it. Whether it's him, whether it's Violet's second signet, whether it's somebody else, somebody's going to be a distance wielder. And if they're not, I need to know why we talked about it this entire time.
Well, and Rebecca did say in her interview, her dream signet, if she could have one, would be distance wielding. But like she talked about like
But
almost like teleportation in a way.
yeah, which doesn't make sense to me and why we would change the name of it. Maybe that was to hide it. I don't know. But if it's teleportation, you're not a distance wielder, you're teleportation. Also, the way distance wielding is described in the book is not teleportation.
Yeah, but there's also, I mean, they say
Did
Rhiannon.
she do that on purpose in the interview to like confuse us?
Well, they say Rhiannon's signet has never existed before. There's not been something like Violet's signet in thousands of years.
Zayden?
Zayden's not. So I mean, there's several that are like completely like ones like the one girl that can astral project too, like Quinn, I think her name was. So like,
Yes.
there's multiple that like have never been seen before. So it wouldn't make any like it wouldn't be so far fetched that we wouldn't come up with that. But I think so.
But it should be called teleportation. It's not distance wielding.
I mean, you are wielding at a distance just yourself.
But you're
I
not
also
actually wielding at a distance because you're wielding where you are.
what I wonder though is if technically, see, this is sort of where my brain just went. So
Okay, hold up.
Rhiannon,
But if someone was going to have teleportation or distance wielding, it should have been Zayden with the
but I
shadows.
feel like Rhiannon kind of already has that.
It's object, so it's not her.
But right now it's objects because they emphasize in Fourth Wing. I just reread that section not too long ago about how right now she can only move objects. So
Could
who's
be.
to say that it can't be people and she can't be the distance wielder?
Okay, so I don't think she'll be the distance wielder if that happens. But that to me would lead me more to believe that Violet's signet is like enhancing or amplification or need or whatever that results in relearning how to teleport herself instead of objects. That would all connect for me perfectly.
Well, and the other thing too that would kind of connect for me is the fact that she keeps talking about how storms find her comfort, home. So if Eric becomes a storm wielder, and we think
Yes,
that
that
either she's
connection.
mated with Adarna or they end up together, whatever, that would kind of lead us to believe where she would feel comforted by him if she loses Zayden.
Okay, let me ask you this because I just saw this the other day and it never even occurred to me. First of all, Violet's mother's signet
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
Storm's, which A explains why it feels like home to her then, but also B, someone had a good question the other day I saw on TikTok and it said if Violet's mom controlled the weather, why was it raining when Violet had to cross the parapet?
Hmm.
So, like, did her mom want her to die secretly? I don't think so. Based on like, I'll never ever ever forget the "You know me, my love" letter between mom and dad.
Yeah.
Like, I hated mom, but like that letter was it was perfect. I loved it. So I don't think she actually hated her or wanted her to die,
I
but it is interesting to me. Do you think she caused the rain, or do you think she just like didn't interfere?
I think she didn't interfere, but because I think she didn't want anybody to say that she did something to
I agree.
influence the results.
I agree. She wanted Violet to survive or not survive on her own merit because she knew she was going to have to do that going forward.
Yes.
I agree.
I don't think I really think it just was going to happen. I don't think it was cuz she talked about how it looked like it was going to rain the entire time. So I think it would have been suspicious if it didn't rain,
Yeah.
the whole
I feel like just didn't rain while Violet was
Yeah.
walking. Yeah. I agree. Okay, so talking about signets, do you think the rebels or the marked ones have more than one signet?
I'm going to be honest, I think yes, because on my reread, I don't
Okay.
remember at what point it was, but Imogen was one. She mentioned, I don't remember at what point in the story it was, but she talked about how she moves really fast. Oh, it was whenever they were trying to steal the map. She talked about how she moves really fast and she can erase memories whenever they were talking about their signets. And she kind of said that, and then she kind of they mentioned I think she got quiet right afterwards. So I think she may have let it slip that she had a second signet that she wasn't really gonna.
Speed.
Yeah.
Do you think they are like that though, like more like basic signets and not like too powerful signets? Because Zayden has too powerful,
I think it depends on the person.
and the dragon.
Hmm.
Okay, speaking of that, you think Imogen has wiped some of Violet's memories?
I don't really know how that would play with the storyline if that's the case.
I agree. I don't see the point. It would have made sense to me to wipe them before when we knew Dane was reading her memories, but I don't know really when Imogen was that close that often to do that so frequently. You know what I
Well, and
mean?
I don't like what memories could she have, because like her catching them like flying in at night, then her catching them like with the knife situation, like all that kind of stuff. Like there was a lot of secrets that literally could have gotten them all killed. That I would think that would be priority to wipe her memories for over
I agree.
some of the other stuff. Now, I do
I
think
agree.
in the future that may be the case, and I think it kind of relates back to. I really think that at some point, if Zayden doesn't die, I think he's going to sacrifice their relationship to keep Violet safe, and I think he may use Imogen to wipe her memories of him so that way they can be apart.
Okay, Damon and Elena
I think it's
from
the
Vampire
case. I
Diaries.
do.
That makes me so nauseous. Okay, definitely a possibility. Wholeheartedly agree. And I also agree that I don't see the point of what she would have wiped if she had wiped anything. What was the point of it?
Be like
More things.
Groundhog Day if she did. Like,
I was gonna say, I also like reading through it, don't remember like Violet not remembering something that I had just read. So if we were gonna do that, there should have been moments I feel like that we could have picked up on that she actually did
well, like
wipe.
the mind reading thing. There was always a comment of like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't speak that out
Yes.
loud," or "Oh, I thought that," or
Yep.
something like corresponding with that. And then now
Yep.
all of a sudden we we're coming up with that theory, but I don't really. I think somebody did say there was like one line that could have indicated that, but at the same time, like I see where so many drastic things happen that nothing was ever done about those that it just doesn't make sense to me why we would do it now.
I agree. And I like I said, I think at the beginning, like before she was a part of the movement, I could see wiping maybe,
Hmm.
but then she becomes part of it and then Dane becomes part of it. It's like I don't really understand. You'd have to wipe Dane's memories
Yeah.
almost instead of Violet's, you know.
Whenever she was close with Dane and at least still hanging out with him, that would have been the ideal
Yes.
time. And she was training her and stuff during that time. So that would have been literally, she would have access, she would have had motive. Like it would have made sense at that point why she would have been doing that.
Yeah. Except we see her remember like the wood scene
Yeah.
and the outside the balcony scene or whatever. So we know she remembers them. So I don't know, but that was interesting when I saw it online.
I mean, she could have wiped that she even
Yeah,
knew about it.
exactly.
So,
The whole battle at the
yeah.
towers, like, you know. But okay, so speaking of signets and powers and everything, and we kind of briefly mentioned it just now, but I think we both agree the way that it's written is almost more like that Zayden can read at least Violet's mind because the intentions doesn't make sense. He like answers her word for
Mhm.
word for thoughts that she has in her brain. So we've talked about it a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're sort of wondering if maybe like the bond between them is what allows him to read more into her, and maybe it is only intentions with others, or if he does actually read minds and disguises it as intentions or whatever, or if it was just like an error in writing. It was, maybe written a little too broadly and should have been a bit more
Well,
narrow.
actually, that kind of relates to your argument about distance wielding. Maybe she worded it as something else, but it really is something
Yeah,
else.
it's possible because there are several scenes. I can think of several just off the top of my head right now
Yeah.
where Violet has thoughts, and clearly they are thoughts. They're clearly marked in the book as thoughts. They are not said
Hmm.
out loud. And then Zayden will answer it word for
Yeah.
word. And at the beginning, when they first have like the bond and the mind link, I like kind of excused it as like maybe she didn't close it off like she should have or
Hmm.
whatever. But he still does it like even when they go visit Uncle T, and she clearly knows how to block it off, and
Yeah.
he answers her word for word. So I don't know if that was an error. I don't know if Zayden's still keeping secrets and maybe he's not giving the full extent of his second signet. I don't know. That will come into play, though, kind of what we talked about earlier about whether Venom can read his mind. Maybe he can read their minds, and that comes into play too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I definitely, intentions does not make sense to me. And if we're going to like revert back to that and like hit hard and say it is intentions, then I need it clarified and like really specific because it's been very broad.
Well, and I mean, to me, like the reading the mind thing, the part that makes the hardest amount of sense for me is with if it really is intentions. There is indication that he can read intentions because there is parts in his excerpt where he's just like he's reading her mind. And he's like, there was one section where he was just like she was calling him a effing traitor in her mind, and she was like, "You don't know what I'm thinking about you," and he's like, "You know that you're thinking that I'm a traitor to this." And then I think the other part that
But that would be like the intention would be like betrayal,
yeah,
not traitor word specifically. I think
yes,
that's my problem is like it's like legit word
yeah,
for word.
which is why I'm more leaning towards the reading the minds theory, is that whenever she goes to visit Mira, Mira kind of puts in her head that she doesn't know enough about Zayden. And she was like talking about she doesn't even know when his birthday is. She doesn't even know how old he is. And she's like thinking in her mind all that kind of thoughts. And he's like, "This is my birthday." And she's like, "Oh, mine's this." And he like cuts her off and he's like, "I already know. I already researched all about you." So like, I don't know. There's,
How did he know that?
yeah.
Yeah. No.
So,
And that's not an intention like having
yeah.
like her intention would be like wanting to ask questions or
Yeah.
like inquisitive or something, but like her actual thoughts word for word would not,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's, again, I don't know if it's the writing, if there was just a little too broad, should have been more narrow, or maybe it's too narrow, should have been more broad. I don't know.
Or maybe
But
he just said, "I read your intentions" to see how she would react, and then when she react badly, he was
yeah,
like, "Okay, I'm gonna back it up and not tell her the rest of the
yeah,
situation."
let me not tell you that I know every single thought you've ever
Yeah.
had. But I don't know,
Or
I don't
he
know
maybe
why I just
he
did
said
that. Why did I do
it.
that?
Maybe he didn't want to violate, like feel like she was violated. You know what I mean? Like just say it was intention, so she
I'm
didn't feel
pretty sure
violated.
she already felt violated.
I mean, yeah, but I think it,
But also, he hasn't really like, I hate to say that because he hasn't really directly lied to her. So intentions would be lying.
yeah,
And for the most part, when she asks him a question, he does answer it truthfully.
yeah.
So I would hate to say like, oh, now he's a liar.
That is the one part I hope we leave in Iron Flame is the
Please stop keeping secrets.
no, like the ask the exact question to get the exact
Oh,
answer kind of thing.
yeah.
Like that annoyed the crap out of me. Like,
Well, see, and so I saw theories that maybe they did that because she's a truth sayer. And so he was trying to get her to understand I can't lie to you if you ask the right questions. But at the same time, there's other ways we could have done that. And also, Dane lies to her at some point. I think
yeah.
mom lies to her. Like, other people lie to her, I feel like, at some point. So, truth sayer doesn't ring true for me. But
So let's skip into what we think her signals are real quick because I know we talked about her talking to the dead. I think we're both in agreement that that's more than likely not the situation. I think we both agree that the runes thing is probably the most logical for that whole scene because
Yeah,
that's the
or
only time.
just literally, or just hallucination.
Yeah,
I mean, disassociation, you find comfort in your old friend that's dead. I
yeah.
mean, that's a common.
We also did talk about needs, like if she needed something, which I think
Yeah.
we are still on the page that is a possibility. I don't want
Yeah.
to speak for you, of course, but I think we're both kind of where if that is with the Liam thing, that would also make sense as far as the needs thing goes.
Well, I think that compulsion and amplification are almost so similar that they're almost tied together.
Yes.
They're worded a little different and kind of do it a little differently because obviously, like, need would only be like if she really needed it, as opposed to compulsion, she could just compel someone to do it. But I definitely, talking to the dead is not at the top of my list. It wasn't back then either, but I think that was just. I will say this though, I don't want him to come back.
Yeah.
I can't take the emotional devastation of having him come visit for a short little while and then disappear
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Especially with him being like, I'm right where I need to be. No, stop wrecking my heart, Rebecca. So, right now, my guess of her second signet is compulsion. I don't think she's intentionally compelled people, but I think it's been slowly manifesting and she just hasn't realized it. And the reason I think that is because they talk about when your power starts manifesting, if you don't use it, you like go insane
Yeah.
or blow up or whatever. And so at some point, I feel like she would have had some problems.
So here's my thought on the compulsion thing. That would kind of make
Hmm.
sense to me because there is the theory that she demanded that Zayden find some way to live. So then that's why he became Venom, was to do that. That
Yes.
also would make sense to me with the theory about she commands the skies, which means not that she commands the storms, but she commands the dragons. But that
Yes.
would also make sense to me with as far as whenever Zayden asked her to ask specific questions, if she asks a specific question and says, "Tell me," the answer, he would
What?
have to tell her, almost like a truth sayer, but in a different way.
Right. I wholeheartedly agree. That's where I'm leaning towards right now. Although I will say, Rebecca did an interview and was like, I thought everybody would guess it. So then I'm like, I'm not that confident in my guess.
Yeah.
So maybe I am wrong. But I'm
I feel like
definitely,
she said that they'll just like make us all go insane and trying to figure out what it is.
that's very
See,
possible.
here's my biggest problem. Okay, so there is multiple instances where Darna speaks about balance. The nature likes balance,
Hmm.
balances and everything, whatever. So we kind of get that with Zayden and Violet's signet. Zayden's darkness, hers is kind of light in a way. So my thought is it depends on who she's supposed to end up with or who Adarna's mate is or whatever, as far as what that other balance may be. And so either A, it's something to do with like Zayden like secretly reads intentions, so Violet has like an offset of that, or Eric, whatever his power may be, it's offset of that if that's what who she's supposed to end up with.
So I think the balance is actually within herself because she's full of power. So she's give, 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 but with compulsion, she's pulling. So it's like a
Oh, so
give
you're
and
talking about like
take.
personally. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
not. I don't know why I had like the claw. But like maybe that's how it's a give and take within her own self is
Mhm.
like the push and the pull. I again though I will say if she does not master her power significantly in this book, I'm going to be very disappointed. I'm really tired of that like she's still like I don't want to say she's underestimated because to be quite frank, she's not performing well.
Yeah.
So it's time to buck up and let's get a roll on it. Like, do some serious control training. If you're not wasting all that time with Zayden, and it really isn't a waste of time, but you know what I mean. If you're not spending all that time with Zayden, then you should be doing control training for your power.
Well, there is the quote from the book of Brennan that was at the top of one of the pages that were included in some of the theories. But the question is, are we sure Brennan's talking about the power of a signet here, or could it be another power? And the quote says, "The first rush of power is unmistakable. The first time it forms to you, surrounds you with a seemingly endless supply of energy. You'll be addicted to the high, to the possibilities of all you can do with it, to the control you hold in the palm of your hand. But here's the thing, the power can quickly turn and control you." So
Hmm.
I initially read that as a possibility if he was talking about turning Venom, but I'm wondering if it's something with Violet.
Possible. Anything's possible, unfortunately.
And I'm going to come back around to that whenever we come back around to the excerpts that have been coming out. Because the one that Jack quotes, I think,
I
kind
don't
of
like
plays
them.
into that. I don't either.
Okay, well, and to wrap up talking about like Liam and death and whatnot, we originally discussed some sort of like relation to gods
Mm.
or like a future interaction with the gods or whatever. I'm still hopeful that we'll have something along those lines. If she has compulsion, maybe she can compel a god to like answer their call for help or something. I don't know. But I really would like, we reference all these gods throughout this book so far, and I feel like it would be cool to at least like one of them appears or one of them assists or whatever. But I, realistically, I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm wondering if the lead villain is Malik. I wonder if Malik is creating an army of basically.
My only that would have been a really good plot twist. However, my main reason that I don't think that's probably what's going to happen is because she says like Malik sent him as a kindness. So like we describe him as like a benevolent, not as a
But who's to say they're
ruthless.
not worshiping the wrong?
That's true. It's very possible.
Kind
I
of
almost would.
compare Violet to godlike.
They do, which is why I thought maybe she was low key, secretly Malik's descendant or something. But I think Rebecca said no or something about
Mm.
Malik. But I do think, I don't think it'd be Malik, but I think there could be another god that could be the general leading the Venin. And the reason I say that is because Malik is death, right? So, but the Venin are an upset balance from death. So I feel like he wouldn't like them either. And I say that like picturing him more as like Hades in the back of my mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's sort of like the vibe. And like Hades very frequently is like, can't cheat death. Death when death comes for you, it comes for you and you have to answer the call or whatever. So that's probably not a direct quote from a single book. I don't know where I came up with that. But so that's sort of how I picture Malik in my head. Like it's more of like a death is a balance thing, not death is a cruel thing.
Yeah, that does.
So, but I could see like, and Loki wouldn't be in this world, but a god like Loki, the god of tricksters or whatever, something similar to that, being who would lead the Venin.
Okay.
Or there could be a god of war because they prayed to a god of war at one point in this.
There was a god of luck, I think, that she prayed to.
There's a goddess of something too. So I think it'd be interesting to have that sort of play into it, and maybe that ends up being the ultimate villain. Maybe we think it's Venin, but really it's a god or something. I don't know. Have you joined our Fable Book Club? Fable is an upgraded app to keep up with your library, connect with friends, track your books you've read, and so much more. Did we also mention half-star ratings? That definitely sold us. Check the link in our description to join our book club now.
Saying on the Venin topic, you had a theory about the Venins in the dream, didn't you?
Oh, so I read a theory online that okay, so Violet has those dreams. The first Venin that she interacts with in her dream is described as like I think like old and decrepit essentially. Excuse me if that word is offensive. I don't know if that's an offensive word. But like shriveled up like how I picture like the cereal
Mhm.
in Alcatar. Which makes sense like if you're draining and you have to replenish, whatever. Like the old witch in Tangled. That's how I
Yeah.
picture. And then very descriptive. But anyways, and then the second Venin she meets is actually described more as like tan skin and like almost like beautiful
Mhm.
and like sweet breath and this different sort of thing. There are two theories as to who the second Venin could be. The first Venin, the theory is that it's the general. Obviously, she's seeing the leader. The second Venin, the two theories are that it could be Naolin, which is like going to be like our big reveal, like oh he's still alive and he's a leader of this, whatever.
I feel like that's
And
too
then
obvious.
I think so too. I think the second one makes more sense, and that's that it's Zayden, actually. Part of the reason why the theory is that it's him, obviously, first of all, because the complexion and the beauty and everything would match, but the sweet breath comes back to the chocolate cake reference that keeps being talked about. So it'll be interesting to see if that is what happens, and it's almost like a prophecy. Then I almost wonder, like, is that her second signet? Does she see prophecies? I don't know, but there's definitely when you do your reread, you'll see it because I didn't notice it honestly the first time I had to watch these TikToks. There are two different Venom described in her dreams. And we've talked about this in our last episode. The Venom in her dreams are theories about how they had similar dreams, how they were connected, who they're actually after, him or her.
Mm-hmm.
From sort of the excerpts we've been seeing, it sounds like really they're after her.
Yeah.
And they've gone through him to get to her, practically. And so my thought is like she projected, especially if we come back again to her compulsion being her second signet, she needed like comfort. And so she projected her dream, or if it's prophecy, projected her dream onto Zayden. And so he was having those dreams because of her, really,
Mm-hmm.
through the mind bond, but not because he would have had them on his own.
Yeah.
Because really they're and then if that's the case, it also makes sense because she has to have some sort of connection to the venom, right? We keep talking about, is
Yeah.
she half venom? Was she attacked? Whatever it is she the cure? There's some sort of connection. So it makes more sense that she would be the one to have the dream and project it onto him instead of vice versa. However, that doesn't really go along with like his mom being the leader. I guess she could be both and want both of them, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in future interactions between him and the other venom and then her potentially.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think there is definitely something that just doesn't quite make sense there, but what it is, I'm not quite sure.
No, yeah, I agree. It's very there's too many unknown particles right now. Like we can't put it all together because there's too many unknowns. But there are ways that they could go, so we'll see. So speaking of Zayden and Violet and who ends up together and who doesn't end up together, I have seen the theory that I guess it's not really a theory, it's more of like an explanation of like the reason that she's like so insecure about being with Zayden and like being with someone who's royalty or whatever is because her ex is Howden and he like rejected her after a while or like said he couldn't be with her permanently or whatever because of her status and like him being royal and her not being or whatever.
Yeah.
And so now she's insecure about it. I can see that maybe, but also I got to be totally honest with you. I haven't really seen her being insecure about being royal.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen her being insecure about Cat, but not about being royal.
Yeah.
However, I'm all for introducing an ex of Violet's so that we get jealous Zayden,
Mm-hmm.
possessive Zayden,
Yes.
1,000%. So whatever way you want to write it, whether it's Eric he's jealous of, and that's just how we get the jealousy, I'm fine with
I
that.
do think we'll get some kind of jealousy on his behalf because I think at this point, because he has done this, he now is like really down on himself. And I think he's really going to think that, like, I'm really not good enough for her. She's going to find someone better. Or
I
like,
think
you
so too.
deserve someone better kind of thing.
Yeah, you deserve someone better, I think is what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
What's your thoughts on the fact that Violet's mom knew about the venom being in the scribes?
So we talked about this too, and I think it does make sense that she knew something or had suspicions, and that's why she pushed Violet into the writer's quadrant.
Hmm.
That makes total sense to me. However, I disconnect there from that theory with who all knew about it.
Yeah.
And were they doing anything about it? Like, were they secretly working against them? Was she the only one that had suspicions? Do other people have suspicions? Are we, like the sort of grand scheme of it past her is where I get a little disconnected and confused. Um, but it would make sense to me that she would send her into the writer's quadrant because the scribe quadrant is
Yeah.
overran with venom. However, she's at risk being at the college in general. So then it kind of is like, okay, maybe.
I think the biggest thing to me is the biggest question we've had about the mom is why she was so pushy to put her in there. And I think that's
Mm,
just the best way to answer that question. Unless the only other theory that kind of makes sense is that she didn't want Violet to start researching the venom to get herself killed because that's how possibly her dad was killed.
yeah, that's possible.
I mean, those are the only two that really make sense in that aspect. What about the theory about the new book covers being the transition of Adarna's scales?
So at this point, I'm honestly not really leaning one way or another. That she is black at this point because she's mimicking Taryn.
Mhm.
So like we know she can change them. We've seen her change them. They're purple, whatever. They were gold to start out with simply because of the youth and everything, though. But I guess, like, if we get to the white or like the silvery or whatever, it also would make sense that it's her and Violet left and Taryn's dead because she would almost be like shedding that, you know, those scales in honor of
Yeah,
him or whatever, maybe. But I guess I don't. That's the only significance that I could see to it. I don't know what she would gain from becoming silver now. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, other than honoring him, I don't see what the point would be.
that makes sense. I think
But
I do
I
like
think it's
the
cool.
theory about the sprayed edge. I don't know if you saw it. I don't even know if I mentioned it to you, but the one with the five dragons on the side indicates all five books, but it indicates like if you look at them, they're like different sized dragons, and it's like supposed to
Mhm.
indicate Adarna growing up. So that's why I do think Adarna may make it to the end because that does make sense of why there's the five dragons and they all look like growth wise different.
Make it to the end and then sacrifice her.
Yeah,
I hope not. I don't ever want my happy ending to be sacrifice. But unfortunately, I think that might be where we're heading.
I think to be honest, I've read two books of Rebecca's that kind of had something along that lines towards the end. It does make me kind of wonder if that's the way it could go.
So let me ask you this. Other than Zayden's mom, do you have any other theories about who the general could be?
No, I I think the biggest thing is, I mean, I do like the theory that it could be like Malik or like somebody like that, but I don't think it's going to be Violet's dad. I don't think he has anything to do with more of the storyline.
So let me tell you what I heard. I heard a theory that it could have been the original brother from the Fable of the Three Brothers,
Okay.
or it might be one of the original six
Okay.
that created the wards.
Both of
I've
those
seen
would
that.
kind of make sense.
Yeah, I
Three
don't know
brothers.
why that would
I
matter,
don't know
but
as far as the three brothers if this was true or this is just something my brain made up to make it make sense, almost like the Harry Potter three brothers situation. But like, I think I seen the theory that the fable of the three brothers was like one was Venom, one was a prince, and one was a dragon rider.
one was Venin, one was a dragon rider, and I think one's dead
Okay, yeah, I think it maybe it was dead. Which one brother
because the
is dead? One's a dragon
correct,
rider.
and we don't know about Halden at this point.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was of those three. I was trying to see if I had it written down. That's that one. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's what it was for the three brothers. One gave everything. One was a dragon rider, and one turned venom. But that could be wrong, so don't quote me on
yeah,
that.
and
But
that's what I heard too. But I don't know where that came from. I don't know if I read it in one of Fourth Ring or Iron Flame. If I seen it in
yeah,
a theory, I don't
I,
know.
my problem is it's so quickly like gazes over the three brothers story.
Yeah,
Like we don't dwell on it.
yeah.
And so to me, like it didn't stand out as much as it did evidently to everybody else. So I don't know. But I mean, I can see obviously the correlation that we did have three brothers, so it makes sense. But also, who says Zayden doesn't have two other brothers?
Or
Or what are
Violet,
the three brothers or Uncle T and his two brothers,
or Violet.
which would have been Zayden's dad, him, and you know what I'm saying?
Violet has three siblings, or she is the
Could
third
be.
sibling, I guess I should say.
Yep,
She's.
could be them. I mean, there's so many threes that we could, you know what I mean? I don't
Who's to
know.
say Brennan's not a secret Venom? We don't know about.
I don't think he is at this point, but I think that might become the betrayal.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about it. But anyways, so do you think and agree that Papa Sorrengail was probably killed because of his research? Are we both there?
I would say I'm like 92% there.
Okay,
I would say that's the most logical
sure.
explanation for his death. I don't think he just randomly had a stroke. Not
Fair
especially
enough.
whenever how important it seems like his research is to their entire cause.
And also it's missing.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember this person. Do you remember General Daramore?
No.
This says that general could be the Venin that's general. They thought he had died. Don't know who that is,
Mm.
so that doesn't help me. Oh, and I'm getting some of these theories, not all of them, but I saved a post from Fantasy Fangirls podcast. So shout out to them for organizing that so that I could borrow it.
They had a lot of
Um,
good guides.
yeah, absolutely. But then obviously, I'm sure we both agree with this, that the seventh dragon, den, species, however you want to say it, is the secret weapon that defeated the Venom 600 years ago. Obviously, we think Andarna is connected to that
Yeah,
somehow. Whether it's defeated as a weapon or a cure, there's obviously some connection
yeah,
between those two things.
I would agree.
Yeah, I thought so.
I also want to ask you if, like, you had to have one breakout character in Onyx Storm as like a side character, because obviously Liam, I would think we would both agree was a breakout character in Fourth Wing. And then as far as like Iron Flame, even though we didn't want her to be, I think Kat was kind of the breakout one, like in a negative way. But in Onyx Storm, which one would you say you would hope to be the breakout side character?
Garrick, give me my man.
Well, I feel like you'd say Garrick, but I also think that you'd be okay with Rhiannon too, because you
I
seem to
would.
be kind of favored with Rhiannon as
I
well.
would. I think though, like, so see, so in the last book though, we almost get where her and Kat become
Yeah,
friends. So I don't know if it will be a good or a bad kind of breakout side character this round, but I absolutely would not complain if Rhiannon was the side character. But I also would love to see more of Garrick.
yeah,
And I'm probably going to say that for the rest of the
yeah.
series because honestly, I would read Garrick's book. I love him. Um, he's Cassian. Like, that's my man. But anyways, like I was telling Emily, I was like, if I had to pick a harem, such a hardship, I'd pick Zayden, Garrick, and could list that easily. Garrick would Garrick actually might even be above Zayden if he gets whiny in this next book. I cannot take a whiny. I can't do that. We can't be whining. We'll see if it happens. I will say though, there's a theory that he enters his villain era
hmm
and like embraces it full force to defeat other Venom, not to hurt her obviously,
Yeah,
but I would very much love that.
I have
Who
this.
would your side character breakout be?
I would have to say probably. I mean, I kind of favor Riddick too.
I feel like we've kind of gotten he was like a mini side breakout at the beginning.
I do. My biggest thing with Riddick,
He almost died.
like, I really do think that Riddick, because so the reason why I think it could be Riddick is the person that dies is because Rebecca did hint at Liam almost dying prior. She did Riddick as well, and then he survived. So I'm wondering if he is now going to die because it was almost like a prep for that. You know what I'm saying?
Sawyer could die. He could not survive his amputation.
True. I mean, that could be. Well, I already know he did survive because I read the leaked chapters. But
You know that through chapter 1 and 2 he survived, but you don't know he survives the entire book.
yeah, but he already had his leg amputated, so it wasn't due to the amputation.
He could get an infection.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just
You guess.
yeah. I mean,
He
it
could.
could be Sawyer, but I'm thinking it's probably more than likely either Sawyer or Riddick. But I do think it's a possibility that it could be Rhiannon, just because there was a point where she was like, "Please, not Rhiannon," like, death. But I don't know.
I think it won't be Garrick or Riddick because we've already gotten close calls. I think it'll be. Liam was so devastating because it was Liam.
Yeah,
He was like that protector. And like Day died protecting Taryn and Liam died protecting Violet. Like it was this big moment. We don't really have that bond with the dragons between Violet and Ree. So I don't know. We'll see. I will say though, it's really sad listening and reading, watching, whatever, these dragons dying and then their
yeah,
riders just following.
yeah.
Um, maybe Rhiannon turns Venom. Maybe she starts to die and she pulls from the source and survives. I don't know. But I'm tired of people dying, but I'm pretty sure someone is going to die.
So let me ask
I'm pretty
you.
sure someone's going to die in each book. And I saw a theory that it would continue to be protectors of Violet.
Yeah.
So Ree could be one of those.
So we started off in a high, then went to a low. Then this one's gonna be like a semi high, then that's a
But
low.
but see, I have a problem saying we started off on a high because we didn't actually start off on a high.
We ended on a low.
We kind of.
I mean, Liam dying was a pretty big low. It devastated you.
That was in one?
Yeah. The Outpost was one.
Liam died in book one?
Yeah. Book 2 was her mom.
I guess he did, damn.
Liam never
Because he
went
comes
back to
back.
Arisha.
Because he comes back in point
Because
in book
Sloane
two
comes
to
out
talk
in
to
book
her.
2.
I feel like I've read a 7-book series already. Okay. So,
Yeah, Liam
you
died in
know
book
what?
1, died
No,
in book
it's
2.
just, it's been downhill since we started.
Okay.
It's all down. It's a straight line of down. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, there obviously were low points, but like, not including Liam's death, overall, book one was high
Yeah.
points. She survived. Most people survived. Not Liam, but most people. They were sort of together, even though she's kind of mad at him right now. But like, they're together. We know they love each other. Whatever. And then we hit book two, and book two is just like constantly a slow trickle downhill. And then we hit a big down when he becomes Venom. I
Yeah.
feel like. So this one, I feel like is gonna have like, it's gonna like pump us up to want them to be like, oh, they're gonna make it, they're gonna work, blah, 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 and then boom, he's gonna die
Yeah.
in the fourth, or something like that. Like I feel like if this is gonna build us up, just to drop, maybe.
Because I think that's a good way to get people
To not finish reading the series. What the heck do you mean? I need a little bit of a pick me up in the middle.
Well, I mean, like, I'm not saying that there can't be something, but like, I think that like some major character that we've grown attached to is going to die in the third one, and I think someone major is going to die in the fourth one, and then we're going to end up with
Which is why I think Mira is who dies in this book. I think it has to be Mira. We haven't quite.
I think it's going to be a bigger character than that because, like, the mom was not that big of a character to die. Like, I don't think anybody really had an emotional attachment to the mom. So,
Violet did.
not even really, to be honest.
She did.
I mean,
They
she
weren't
was upset by
lovey-dovey.
it because it's her mom, but I don't think it was just, to me, it was more upsetting for Liam to die than it was her mom. Like,
No, because it's Liam. But
I mean, if Tara died, I would be more upset about him than her mom. Adarna,
I I
Rihanna,
don't think
even.
I
Imogen,
agree.
even.
Like I would probably be more upset if Jack died than I would her mom. I hated her mom. But that's a little dramatic. I
I know
we
we
have
didn't
been
even touch
building
on
up.
Imogen. Do you think Imogen could possibly be a betrayer?
No. Honestly, I don't see it being her.
See, that's why I
But
think it would be because she's
could be
not the
her.
expected one.
But I think she's the way that she's been for Violet through Violet and Zayden's issues. I don't think so. I think she is loyal to her core. She might be rude and hateful, but I think she's loyal to her core.
I don't know.
I could see somebody else at Arisha being a betrayal. The way they treated Violet, I could see that easily.
I just see it because nobody will think it's like Imogen, Rhiannon. I mean, those are two people that in my mind stand out as somebody that I would not think would betray the group, which makes
I
me
wouldn't
think that
think
that would be the logical twist that would just blow everybody's mind.
I wouldn't think anybody in Violet's circle would be a betrayal. Like Rhiannon, Riddick, Sawyer.
See, here's why I think Rhiannon may be. What was the point of the scene of her sneaking out in the first book to go visit her family?
I don't know.
I think to set up the love bond between her sisters and her, and I think that somebody captures her sister and she ends up becoming the leak. Because what was the point of adding Rhiannon's family into the story? Nobody else's family has been involved in this other than the two main characters.
Maybe, I guess, they could take her sister.
Or her nephew.
Okay, but that's not a betrayal. She can't help that.
No, but she could betray them like intentionally with like good intentions.
But I don't call that a betrayal because she has no choice. She can't sacrifice her nephew.
But she'd sacrifice her friend group.
Because that's her nephew. It's a baby.
I know, but I'm just saying that Like it would be a betrayal, but I mean, I think every one of them would understand why she did so.
I don't think they would view it as a betrayal, really, though, because it's not.
I mean, to me,
It's
it
a.
just does not make sense why we
I
visited.
agree. It is odd that we visited her family, but what if it's not? I don't know. It visiting her family made a little bit of sense in the storyline. I don't know.
It made
I don't know.
sense,
It's hard.
but the things that like Violet and her sister talk about when they go with her to the thing is how like their family was never like that, even whenever Brennan was alive, and like it wasn't like significant story.
I thought it was alluding to, like I thought it was setting us up for Brennan being alive.
But we talked about Brennan in multiple other spots that it was kind of obvious that he more than likely would come at some point part of the story because that wasn't the only
Oh.
scene we did. So
No, I know, but I just mean I feel like it was setting us up for to understand him as a character and how he interacts with the other characters before we got there. But I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe they do kidnap her and she's the betrayal. I don't know. It's possible.
I just think Imogen and Rhiannon are the two that we would never think would do that, and I think the only way it works, because obviously we don't think they would betray them on purpose, that there would be something significant that would force them to betray them.
I could see Rhiannon doing it more than Imogen.
Well,
I
Imogen
really
doesn't really have any other connections besides, I mean, really her biggest
that's
one is Zayden.
that's why I think she wouldn't.
Imogen, I don't think would do it on purpose unless it was in like some relation to protect Zayden. But I
Yeah.
don't think there's going to be something like that that would need to be the case
Yeah.
unless it's like Zayden's captured and Imogen decides to like trade Zayden for Violet or something like that. But I don't see that
See,
happening.
no, because in reality she knows Zayden wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I could see Ree more than Imogen for sure. I wholeheartedly agree about that. What do you think about the theory that Violet might be a descendant of one of the original six? Do you think it means anything? Do you think that's how they just defeated him back in the day with one of the six and Darna?
I don't know. I just the theory with Violet being a descendant kind of just doesn't make sense to me because if that's the case, why have no other descendants been used to try to do the cure? You know what I'm saying? Like, because obviously Venon's been around for some time, so like, why would wasn't her
Mhm.
mom tested? Grandparent, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just something about that just doesn't connect dots for me.
Well, maybe it got lost in the history books. Maybe they didn't get to tell their descendants that it was actually them.
I mean, the two history books they have are two different stories from the original six perspectives.
That's true.
What if we find out her dad was secretly one of the six?
That's kind of crazy. I didn't think about that. But he'd have to be really old.
I know, but what if he somehow has a power source that's keeping, or maybe that ward stone, once they activated the ward stone,
Maybe.
made him immortal? I mean, it could be like the Sorcerer's Stone situation with Nicholas Flamel.
Could be. It's possible. I also saw the theory that Papa Sorrengail was one of the epigraphs, and we just don't know it yet because we don't know his name.
Mhm.
Again, I'm going to say this 15 million times, even after the next book. There's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Like, it's endless.
So, what do you think the Let Us Be Menaces excerpt that she introduced would relate back to?
I think that is something Zayden says to Violet or Violet says to Zayden in a sense of like they're going to use him to infiltrate. And we've talked about that before too is like he's going to have to join their ranks obviously at some point, but I think he's going to do it as more of a spy instead of like cooperative. Which I think is how we'll get probably most of our information about the villain is because he's going to be undercover. Which I think means we're probably going to have his point of view. Or at the minimum, have him storytelling to Violet
Okay.
mind speaking to each other or whatever. But I think that's between the two of them somehow. Move
I
on.
think I seen something about there was another line in the book about menaces in I think it was in Iron Flame, but I don't remember what it said off the top of my head to be able to say that for sure. But I think it was related to something with a Darna, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But I think it more than likely probably relates back to something with that. Now, the biggest one I do want to talk about is the quote that she released recently, a couple days ago, that said that even you don't get a say in which parts of us are taken first, Ryerson. And kind of the actual quote it comes from, which is quoted in these leaked chapters. You would read it. Um, it says, "You can fight it all you want, but that power streaming through her veins," Jack taunts, his words growing clearer as I near the final few turns. "There's a reason the higher ups want her. A little brotherly advice, fall in line and find someone else to fuck. The infamous control of yours so much as flickers in her direction." "I would never," Zayden retorts, his voice lethally icy. My heart doubles and I halt just before the last curve in the stairwell, keeping out of sight. Jack's talking about me. "Even you don't get a say in which parts of us are taken first," Ryerson. Jack laughs, but speaking from personal experience, control goes quickly. "Just look at you, freshly fed from the source and already down here desperate for a cure. You will slip, and afterwards, well, let's just say that silver hair has you so besotted, will be gray like the rest of her. And those weak ass initiate rings in your eyes won't just last a few days, they'll be permanent." So,
I don't even know what to say to that because, first of all, screw you, Jack. Okay? Mind your business. Second of all, you don't get to decide what parts are taken first. What does that mean? Our control? My first thought would be your control goes first. I could be wrong. Last but not least, find somebody else? How dare you suggest that?
well, see, here's my thoughts. So when he's talking about what parts, I'm wondering what those parts he could be referring to as. Like, what specifically? Is he talking about your heart? Is he talking about your brain? Is he talking about your control? Is he talking about, like, your will? Yeah, your powers, your dragon bond? Like, what specifically are you talking about could go first? Like,
Again, there's too many
yeah.
possibilities.
But the other thing is too is like, they say that there's a reason the higher ups want her. It just, like, to me, just tell us why they want her at this point,
Yeah,
for the
I
purpose of
know.
wondering what they're wanting.
Give us a reason. Why do you want her? What is so special about her? I need to know. Honestly, because no offense, and I love Violet. I felt a little bit out of touch with her in the second book, but right now she ain't proven to me she that special either. So I needed to step up in book 3. Like I need her to embrace it, gain control, and be like out here just yogging all these venom, just taking them out.
I just, to me, like, I think the hardest part for me to kind of comprehend is the theory that Violet is not the cure, or that she is the cure, makes most sense for those kind of lines being said and consistently being said why they want her. Either she's like the cure that could take them down, or she's something that could bring them up. Those are like the only two logical explanations of why they would want her so badly.
Well, they could drain her.
Well, I know, but like in my mind, that's like
Maybe
making them up kind of thing.
maybe her power is so powerful that they would just keep her like a tap to just every once in a while come
But don't they
drain her.
already kind of have an unlimited tap in the earth?
No, because like the ground dies when they pull from it, it doesn't replenish.
Yeah, but if they're consistently pulling from her, like he like that's kind of what Jack said there was that he says, "Just look at you, freshly fed from the source and already down here desperate for a cure. You will slip, and afterwards, well, let's just say that silver hair has you so besotted will be gray like the rest of her."
Yeah, but I'm assuming the general has learned some sort of control. So I'm thinking like he would drain her.
But if you don't get to decide what goes first, who's to say control wouldn't be gone? Especially if he's already like a level 5.
But I would assume you don't get to say what goes first, but those are also initiates and like lower levels. I would assume as you work your way up, you probably gain more control because you're gaining more power. But I could be wrong. But also, if he's 600 years old, I'm certain at some point he probably would have had to master his control to form an army.
Yeah.
But maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. I just like to me. I think it's either something to make them a bigger threat, or she could wipe them all out. Is the two biggest things. And I don't know how in the bigger threat. I mean, I get what you're saying about her being an untapped power, but I do think that.
I mean, like the same way a vampire would keep a human locked up in the basement. You go drain them for a little bit, let them recuperate, get some more blood, you drain them again. Like it's endless. So like you would always have a power source, and her power is probably stronger than what you pull from the
But
earth.
wouldn't that general need a whole army to tap into her power, who is full of initiates and things like that that don't have control?
I don't know.
Because to me, go into
Because you only
battle,
have her on the opposite side. If she's the one weapon that can take them out, who's going to stop him
but
then?
she's not. Adarna is too.
Is she? Do we know she is by herself?
Well, I mean, in
So
the leak,
far, what powers has she shown
the
us?
leak.
Other than when she did the time jump thing.
Well, in the leak chapter, they talk about how she.
I haven't read
I
that.
know, which is why you should have.
No, because it's leaked. It's leaked.
But she talks. She's talking to Adarna, and she's talking about how Adarna killed off the Venom in that battle where her before her mom had died with her. I think it was with her fire. I think they said
Okay, but is that unique or
the
the
other fire
smaller level?
wasn't killing. Like the other dragon's fire wasn't killing the Venoms.
We know that for sure.
I mean, that's the way that it's written.
If Andarna's the weapon herself, then they don't need Violet. They need Andarna. That's what I don't understand. Because if they take Violet, Andarna could still kill them. That doesn't stop Andarna.
So I mean, I think overall, like we're still left with a lot of questions, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super, super excited. By the time this episode releases, future me, I'm so excited for you that you could finally read
Future
this.
me.
I hope that you're not
She's gonna
as
write a letter
upset.
to herself to read in like 18 days before she starts the book.
Yes, I am writing a letter to myself. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm so excited about just like getting answers, but like, I know, like, the leak did help me feel a little bit better because I was kind of nervous that because of all the hype that she would kind of fall off with her writing or something like that because she was kind of feeling like forced almost in some ways to write it. So I am very excited that I was still enthralled with it and I really wanted to continue reading it. So I'm really, really, really hopeful that it does live up to my expectations and, you know, we figure out exactly what's going on and what's going to happen. I do want to ask you before kind of like the last parting thing. You, I believe, predicted what the storyline or the main word was for the third book. What do you think could be the fourth book's
Do you mean he will
line?
not die or whatever?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't
Or do you want
know.
to predict this after you read the third book?
Let me read the third book and then I'll
Okay.
make a prediction. I was just gonna say, so after you read it, make a list of any questions that you have so that when we get on here into our episode at the end, we can be like, okay, and here's our questions for the next one.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to make my prediction at that point on what I think the next book will
Okay. Because
be
I
and
think I think you
series.
called it. I think she watched our episode and she called
No, she didn't. It was just a logical
it.
conclusion.
No, no.
Although I will say, I kind of feel like we actually could have done I will not die, he will not die, and then we will not die to sort of
Yeah.
build up. I'm scared for their relationship because we jumped in so fast.
Yeah. I have to agree. I think that we ended up with the relationship too soon
Yeah,
for it to make sense to last all five books.
I agree. Especially with the revelation of at the end of book 2 him becoming Venom. I'm really nervous
I know.
that they're not in game. And I love Zayden. Like I really don't want that to be the answer, but I don't think I get a choice. Unfortunately. Those are our thoughts. We would love to hear yours, so feel free to reach out and send them social media, email, however you'd like to. If you liked this episode or any of our other episodes, please subscribe to get access to bonus episodes randomly throughout each month or the fifth Friday like this one. They are on Patreon only. We have extra content, a community chat, and more on Patreon as well. You can find our free episodes that are released on the first and third Fridays of each month on any podcasting platform.
You can also send us book suggestions, comments, or general inquiries to our email at likewereadthem@karlandempodcast.com. You can also subscribe to get access to our monthly newsletter. You can join us on Fable, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram for more engagement from us and the latest news. And obviously, the next logical book that we're going to read is Onyx Storm. Hopefully, you guys stick around and stay tuned to that. We will be recording this the same day that this episode releases. So if you do have any comments or anything like that, if you want to leave them, we may talk about them on the episode because the episode releases at 5 a.m. and we are going to be recording probably like 7 p.m. that day. So we may have some of those that may be included into that. You could also join us on our Facebooks. I have posts that have been made that ask you to talk about your read on Onyx Storm, so we can talk about those there as well if you don't feel comfortable posting it here. So do you want to read the excerpt from that book?
Sure, I sure will. Okay, so after nearly 18 months at Basgiath War College, Violet Sorrengail knows there's no more time for lessons, no more time for uncertainty. Because the battle has truly begun, and with enemies closing in from outside their walls and within their ranks, it's impossible to know who to trust. Now Violet must journey beyond the felling Aretian wards to seek allies from unfamiliar lands to stand with Navarre. The trip will test every bit of her wit, luck, and strength, but she will do anything to save what she loves: her dragons, her family, her home, and him. Even if it means keeping a secret so big it could destroy everything. They need an army, they need power, they need magic, and they need the one thing only Violet can find: the truth. But a storm is coming, and not everyone can survive its wrath. Now, that is the version off of Amazon because obviously there's more than one version. And also, this episode does release February 7th for Onyx Storm.
Yes.
Again, we hope that you have enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that you will tune in for our Onyx Storm episode as well after you share your thoughts with us. Don't forget to join us over on Fable so you can chat with us as you read each chapter if you'd like. But as always, we promise to Karl and like we read them.